Now, few would argue against the need for schools to change. Whether you're thinking about the grouping and scheduling system that was developed in the 19th century that we still use, or the curriculum that is largely based on 20th century skills, or the fact that our high-stakes standardized tests are killing creativity in our students. Not to mention new technologies, ubiquitous communication and information systems. These challenges that the world brings us, that our schools need to adapt. So why is it that something that is so high on the agenda of educators and policymakers the world over seems to be so slow in coming? The answer is this. All change in schools starts or stops with teachers. See, as teachers, we're in the change business. It's our job to manage the physical changes that are taking place in the brains of our students every single day. And any change that someone else wants to impose on that, if it does not help that change, we just shut the door. We resist. Now, we're learning all the time. From the moment we're born, our brain is constantly taking in new information, recycling the information that we already have. And what this is doing is creating mental models of the world. These make us comfortable. That I know when I wake up tomorrow morning, the world will largely be the same as I left it the night before. So I have an expectation. This is what allows us to travel without too much fear. We know that certain signs mean it's okay to go in here, or others no. So when we consider making those changes in education, we have to consider what's important to teachers. Let's consider a change that most teachers have actually had to manage in the last few years. Okay, something that is sort of changing the world over, a new technology. Smartboards. Now, most teachers have had to adapt to using smartboards in their classrooms, moving away from chalkboards and whiteboards. So we all have smartboards now, and that was not an individual choice. That was not something that any single teacher said, you know what, I want a smartboard in my classroom, I'm going to go down to the mall and pick one up and put it in. No. This was a systems level decision, or at least a school level decision. And when they were planning it, this is probably what it looked like to them. This is how organizations see change. It's a nice, smooth curve. Okay, in the beginning, some people will be in denial, yes, okay. And then maybe there'll be a little bit of resistance. But eventually they'll explore the technology, they'll integrate it, and everyone will be committed to using the smartboard. So we'll focus on the environment, we'll put the smartboards in, and then we'll focus on the people, meaning we'll give you some training on the technology, some features and benefits, and here's how to use it. Okay? That's not what it looks like to the teacher. So let's look at that side of it, the human side of change. Oh, by the way, I want to thank my daughter for helping me illustrate this. She gracefully agreed. In the beginning, yes, there's a little bit of shock, some surprise. Wait, what are they doing? Followed by denial. Oh, they are not putting that in my classroom. Frustration comes next. I cannot believe they're doing this. Everything was fine before. I don't need this. Disengagement happens at the bottom of that curve. You know what? I don't care anyway. Eventually, experimentation. Okay, you know what? It's already there. Hey, this does some cool things. Maybe my students can teach me a little bit about how this new technology works. All right. Maybe this does enhance learning a little bit. I think I can figure out ways to integrate this into my lesson planning. And finally, integration. Okay, now it's a part of what I do. Now it makes sense. See, our internal response to an external change is emotional. When someone else wants us to change, we have an emotional response to it. Now, this change curve, this can happen for some people in a matter of about 10 minutes, maybe even 10 seconds. You go through all those thoughts in your head, and you're like, oh, cool, smartboard. Others, it might take 10 months. Or they might not get through it at all. They might reach that point where they say, you know what, I don't care at all anyway, and I'm going to go find a school that doesn't have smartboards. That's getting harder and harder to do, obviously. And they might suffer from what's called misoneism. It's a fear, intolerance, hatred, fear, or intolerance of innovation or change. Now, all of us have that to some degree. You know how you always seem to choose the same seat in the classroom or in the conference room when you go in? That just makes us comfortable. If I asked you all to stand up and move one seat to your left, you'd all get very annoyed at me right now. So I won't do that. So how do we manage this change? How do we manage this emotional roller coaster that we go through when we're faced with changes that we didn't initiate? Well, in the beginning, we need information. We need clear communication, and we need facts. In the absence of communication, we create rumors. And our brains are very, very good at making stuff up based on very little evidence. Tends to get a lot bigger. At the bottom, we need emotional support. And here's the key thing, the difference between the organizational perspective and the human perspective. That emotional support does not come from outside. That comes from within our support structure, our peers. It only comes from other teachers. So, that helps us get through the emotional dip and through the other side where we need direction and guidance. We need a vision. We need a map to help us get there. But without that support in the middle, the change will take longer and will likely be a lot more painful.